Which is the name of the course. So today we're going to go over LinkedIn and personal website. So essentially, when you're looking at LinkedIn or your websites or in general any of the social media platforms, they're being used to help you find opportunities. There's many different social media platforms, and you can use them um, in different ways, and some of them are more visual, like Instagram, and others are more interactive, like Twitter, and some are a little more not as interactive, like websites. LinkedIn can be equally as interactive, but you use LinkedIn in a different way because it is a professional platform. So first, I'm going to just give an overview of the social media web and why you should utilize it as an academic. A lot of times, as an academic, um, as we pointed out, a lot of people use it to talk about what they're doing and the goals that they've achieved, the projects that they're working on. And academics a lot of times don't like to share their accolades, their successes, what they're doing, because it's not something that academics are used to doing. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily not something that's advantageous or won't help you find your networks. So one of the ways that you can start to use all of your social media platforms to help find opportunities is to link all your platforms and make that a consistent um, thing that you do throughout your, like, you can use it in your email signature, you can include it on your LinkedIn, you can also use it using Linktree and use it on your Instagram or Facebook or any of your other social media platforms. But I've taken many classes over the years with academics who use social media very successfully in a number of ways. They use it to, one, find opportunities, to link to think tanks and to academics and to possible job opportunities. And some use it for social activism and social justice. People that are working within certain communities, and they want to bring attention to the research they're doing, say like Black Lives Matters. A lot of those scholars will use social media, particularly Instagram, to reach younger people, because younger people tend to use Instagram more than they're using Facebook. So those are just kind of some of the ways that why you would want to use social media. It's not so much as you're trying to um, create a false persona. You really do want to share what you're doing because it makes it easier for other researchers to find you. I have personally have had job offers and expanded my network just by what I put on social media, because when someone does a Google search, they're just typing in keywords. Well, how are they going to find people to connect with? Particularly on LinkedIn, because it is more professional, geared towards helping you connect to other people that share similar interests. So why does this matter as an academic? Why does this impact? When you're particularly if you're in a position where you're a professor or you're a researcher, university is always asking you, what is your impact? Especially if you're on a tenure track um, faculty position. What are some of the metrics they're looking at? They're no longer looking just at traditional journal articles, how many times it's been downloaded, how many times it's been cited, how many times it's been read. They're also looking at what's called alt metrics and your activity generated on social media. And what that means is they go in and look and see um, how many how many how many people are interacting with this particular scholar or researcher. How are their posts being reacted to? Is it being shared? And that can be here your academic communications, where it's not just your journal articles anymore, but also blog posts, interactions with other scholars on other forms of social media. One of the important things to keep in mind, even if you are a emerging scholar and you haven't published any articles yet in journals, you can still have access to writing for blogs. And this shows whether a prospective university who might hire you after you graduate, or a think tank or a research group, that you're interested in the topic that you're studying. You're sharing and you're contributing to the literature, even though it's not a journal article. And these are things that are very that you can share very readily on social media. So that's another way to start thinking about it at the institution that I'm at the University of San Francisco. Our head librarian, we have a librarian there who just focuses on academic communications, on different ways that scholars will communicate within each other, outside the university, inside the university. So those are two different ways for you to look at how social media can impact your research and your career. Now, when you go into social media, there's an etiquette that one should follow, especially being professionals. You want to have a polished professional persona. And when I mean persona, I don't mean a fake identity. But throughout your social media, you're presenting yourself as an academic, as a professional person, as a scholar. So you want your social media to reflect that, particularly LinkedIn. Also, be polite. Know that these posts are going to be out there forever. People may reshare them, so they don't really ever go away. So really do think before you post, and be polite as if you were in a face-to-face encounter. And prioritize. Who do you want to connect with? Who do you want to communicate with? Think about how what kind of information do you want to present to that particular audience. What you're presenting on LinkedIn is going to be different than when you present on Facebook. It's going to be different from what you present on Twitter. And the reason for that is that those different platforms are designed to encourage different types of communication. As I mentioned, that Instagram is more of a image-based platform, driven by images and videos, where LinkedIn is driven by what have you accomplished, what do you want to accomplish, what have you published, what research project are you on, and lastly, be proud of your accomplishments. No one is going to know that you're part of a research group or you've published a paper if you don't share that with them. It's not it's not an arrogance. It's not being arrogant, and it's not something that you should discourage yourself from doing. It's a way to connect to people in a very genuine way. I post what I publish, and when I go to conferences, me personally, I like when people publish and post the articles that they've written, and the events that they've gone to and that they've participated in, or grants that they've gotten. Because a lot of times I go, and that's how I find out about certain opportunities as well, where I'll go and say, hey, I really liked that topic for that conference, and I might never have known about it if that person wouldn't have posted it. Or an opportunity for funding or grants. I may never have known about those opportunities if my friend, if my one of my colleagues or friends hadn't wanted them and shared that with me. Now for LinkedIn, as with all the other social media, you're going to want to have a professional photograph. And now you can if you have photography skills, you can do that yourself, but you really do want to get a good headshot, because when people are coming to your different sites, just as in person, when you see somebody, you're forming opinions. Whether we think that's right or wrong, we do get a lasting first impression. So the image that you put out, make sure that it's representational of your professional demeanor, your background photograph as well, um, should match with the overall message that you're sending. Eureka, a couple of days ago, presented a very useful workshop on personal branding. And here I'm going to kind of summarize what she talked about there and why personal branding it is lends itself to social media. A lot of times when you think of personal branding, we think, oh, we're just promote it's self promotion, but it's not. When she gave the example of when you think of someone like Kofi Annan, when you think of someone like David Bowie or someone famous, you right away associate a number of things with them. That's their personal brand. They have worked hard to associate certain aspects, like you don't give the example of Kofi Annan and the patient leader. He's a good listener. David Bowie, he made many advances in music. He's considered a genius. He was very innovative. These are all words that come to mind. So when you're curating your online persona, you want to think about what is the message that I want to send out to the world. For me, my main research interest is in Syria, Europe, and social integration. So eventually, when I Google just those words, mostly my work was in Norway. So if I Google integration of refugees in Norway, Syrian Norway, my name comes up on the first page. And this wasn't just haphazard. Over the last 5 years, my work has been focused on that. And I have focused on sharing my research and what I write and my communications all across my social media platforms, focused on the social integration of Syrian refugees in Europe. And that brings me here to the photo that I have on my backsplash. It's tapestries from Palestine and Syria. So it fills the prerequisite of I want this to be a uniform message. The region I work in, Middle East, the specific region, the Levantine. So that it's not a controversial photo. It's a very nice piece of artwork. So that's the type of things that you want to do. You want to add in also the institutions that you've studied at and your current institution. You want to include um, any past jobs that you've held, and that all goes up here, and that's what people see first. And why is LinkedIn such a powerful tool? Um, Number one, it's indexed on Google. So if you're very active on LinkedIn like I am, when you Google me, that's the first thing you see. Another thing is it's indexed and it's present in 200 countries. So anybody who's in one of these 200 countries is going to see and have access to your profile. And that's including people who are recruiting for research positions. Universities will also look at this. More and more universities are asking their PhD students, their master's students, and their faculty to have active social media presence. A lot of universities have specific funding to help their students and their faculty to create websites and to give them tools on how to use social media. It showcases who you are and what you've done. It's also the largest human resource database. So once you graduate from university or if you're already in the workforce, this is one of the largest tools that's being used by human resources, or the organizations are using the human resources, are going out and looking for who's who's doing work that matches with what we want to do. Especially now during COVID, everything's online. Everybody is no one can no we can't and we no longer are able to go in person and interview or network. This is one of the main forms of networks that we have available. So what are some of the elements that you should include in your LinkedIn profile? One, it should be visible. You have to click on there's a little drag tool that you can click on it, and it'll say, do you want your LinkedIn profile to be visible? So make sure that that's there. Your name and the URL. The very top where it says HTTP, you want to make sure that you get the closest to your name as possible. Luckily for me, Anissa Beitia, nobody else in the world has that name, so it was very easy for me to ensure that my name was in the URL, and that's for credibility. Uh, you want people to be able to find you under the name that you use. You want one name. I don't want to be Anissa or Alexandra Abechi. I don't want to use my middle name instead of my first name. If I'm going to use my first name, my middle name, and my last name, I need to do that consistently. If I had a, if I use, say, you have a maiden name and then you get married and you want to use your husband's name, it makes it confusing for people to find you, and also they start questioning whether or not you are who um, is on that social media profile. Because remember, when we look at social media, we want to have trust that that person is who they say they are, and the name is one of the ways that you do that. Publications, anything that you're publishing, blogs at your university's blog, um, journal articles. If you've written an informal piece that you're proud of, you can also highlight that on LinkedIn. Even if you haven't published it, you can publish parts of your research if you like. Uh, Policy briefs, you can publish um, also research briefs, just summarizing your research, and use LinkedIn as a way to highlight that for the public to have access to what you're working on. Your research experience, that could be part of your job descriptions, what project you're working at, and celebrate your work achievements. It's not like Facebook where you're saying, oh, it's somebody's birthday, or I'm having a tough day today. This isn't where you put this. LinkedIn is only for professional communications. Personal communications, you would use Facebook for that. Okay, so I'll go on to the websites. So this here is a view of my website from the mobile view. There's two different ways you can view the websites, either through the desktop or through the mobile. And this is how it looks. And you can see that I have different elements here. Up here is where you can navigate, and here is the social media bar, and here this is a slideshow. So there's different photos that will flash by on your screen as you're looking through it. And there's other elements on the bottom, but this is kind of what the person first sees, my front page. I prefer it very, very simple. I don't like to put too much information there. There is more information down to the bottom because I do tend to be very active in presenting my research at conferences or current research that I've involved in. And also I put on the front page any speaking invitations that I have. And then if you click to the navigation bar, it has the about, articles I've published, videos, and then a contact. So for websites, so your website is going to be your main portal. It can be very, very simple. As I mentioned, many departments and universities are investing in their students and their faculty to have just a very simple website with their photo, a description of their research, um, past research, any publications that they have. And that's with all your social media. You would refer all your social media back to your website, because your website is going to have a very concise um, uh, way of putting all the different elements of your research. Whether it's I have videos and I have interviews that have been done with me, and I have journal articles, and that way, whether it's from Instagram or Twitter, this way you're referring people back to, okay, where's everything that you do? What are have you had interviews with you? um, what type of research you might have photographs of if you've conducted field research. So that's just kind of you would think of it as your main home, and you're driving all your social media traffic to go to your main portal. If you're not there yet to be ready to make a website, that's perfectly fine. But eventually, you do want to have a website where you can direct all your social media traffic to. Very important is that your social media, especially your website, should have be compatible with a mobile view and a desktop view, or else the images get very compressed and they get arranged in a very bizarre way that's not very appealing. And these are all visual tools. So you do want to bring in elements of, does it look good to me? Does it look off? And we've all had the experience of looking at and viewing websites or other visual graphics where just things don't seem right on. Now this is you presenting yourself, so you want to make it as visually pleasing as you can, um, and and your website is going to be the most comprehensive um, link to who you are. So since you're having everything on the website, um, organizing it becomes very important because you want to curate it in a way that, okay, here's my front page. I have what I something that's maybe a picture or a video or a slideshow. So you want to keep that in mind when you're designing your website. The website elements. The first thing that everybody sees is your front page. Your website might not contain more than a front page. That's all you require right now. It just has it could be hosted by your university or some of the web hosts that I'm going to share with you later in the presentation. So your front page is going to have the most important information about you. It's going to have, like I said, a moving element, maybe a video, a slideshow, a picture. You have your social media bar that's going to have connections to all your other social media, whether it's your Twitter, your Facebook, Instagram. If you have any other types of social media that you like to share, that's where it's going to be. The layout, you want a very clean layout, something simple for people so that people aren't overwhelmed by all the graphics, unless that's the feel that you're going for. So, and you really have to think about, okay, what do I want people to associate with me? I typically like websites that are very easy to navigate. Make sure that the font is readable, that it's the size is big enough because different people are going to come to your site. Um, you want to keep in mind, if younger people or older people that you want to make sure that they can read the font, that the color is appropriate and professional. You want to have a contact form. You want to make it mobile friendly and user friendly and easy to navigate. The last two are um, very important after the color and font because you want people to be able to read your content. You don't want to give them a headache. I'm sure you've gone to websites and you said, oh, this is too much. There's too many colors, there's too many flashing things, or the font is too small. Um, you want to make it as friendly and usable so that people want to come back to the site. So it's easy for them to find things. You want it to be easy to navigate. So when you're putting in categories, if you do want to have more than a front page, or if you just want a front page, organize things according to categories: about, articles, current research, past research, interviews, videos, contact, contact form. So just lay it out as you would, when you do research, you put different elements of your research into different parts of the research paper. So think of it in that way. And you really don't have to have more than a front page if you're just starting in your career, and that's more than appropriate. Or even if you're more advanced in your career, maybe you only want to highlight your current journal articles, or you might just want to have selected articles. It's completely up to you, and it's whatever you want your persona to be online. And some web hosts that you might want to consider are Weebly. I use Weebly, and I like it the most because it's very, very user friendly. It's also free, and the free uh, portion of it it's a very nice, very professional. You can just drag and drop elements. It's very intuitive. You don't really need a tutorial to just kind of pick a template. You can tweak it, play around with it a little bit. There's Wild Apricot, WordPress. If you're a little bit more ambitious, it's WordPress tends to be a little more clunky. You have to have a lot more. It takes a lot more to get a very sharp, polished, professional looking WordPress um, web page up. And the free version, it's just very, very, very basic. You don't have a lot of elements that you can work with. It's a little harder to operate, and you have to invest more time in learning how to navigate and use WordPress. And then there's GoDaddy. So thank you so much, and then have a good
Thank
night or a
you.
good morning or afternoon wherever you are in the world.